strengthen every other discipline? That is the question. I will repeat it. How can every practice of self-discipline strengthen every other discipline? Meaning of self-discipline is dictionary meaning. I will tell you: the ability to control one's feelings and overcome one's weakness. Ability to control one's feelings and overcome one's weaknesses. That is the self-discipline. So you are able to overcome your weaknesses. Your personality becomes stronger, and that reflects in everything. Right? The word discipline normally means through control, but if it is through understanding, then the clarity is reflected everywhere, and it will not have an internal conflict. Whereas if it is through conditioning, enforcement, then there is an internal conflict. First, let us see from J.Krishnamurti's talks in Europe in 1967. In observing, one discovers this background, and observing it without any choice, without any inclination, is tremendous discipline, not the absurd discipline of conformity, imitation. Such observation makes the mind extraordinarily active, extraordinarily sensitive, and the whole of that is meditation. Not to observe you must meditate, but rather it is in observing that all these things takes place, and all this is meditation, not just kind of control of thought. It is only when the mind is quiet that you do see clearly, but you cannot make the mind silent by enforcement, by discipline. One has to understand discipline. For most of our lives are disciplined outwardly by pressure, by influence, by the demands of society, by the family, inwardly by one's suffering, by one's own experiences, in the conforming to certain patterns, ideological or factual, conforming, suppressing, imitating, and these all become pattern of discipline, which again is the most deadening thing. But there must be discipline without control, without suppression, without any form of fear. So how is this discipline to come about? It is not that one first disciplines and then finds freedom, but rather freedom is at the very beginning. It is not a result at the end. To understand that freedom, which is the freedom from the discipline of conformity, is discipline itself. After all, the word discipline, the root meaning of the word is to learn, not to follow, not to imitate, not to suppress, but to learn. The very act of learning is discipline. In the very act, learning becomes clarity. That is to understand, for example, the nature of control, suppression or indulgence. To understand it and study it, to investigate very closely the whole structure and nature of this imitative process demands attention, does not it? I don't have to impose a discipline on myself in order to study it. The very act of studying brings about its own discipline, and in that there is no suppression. To learn there must be freedom, and in that very act of caring is the very act of discipline. I think that is the most important to actuality. Realize this fact. So true negation, the negation of what has been considered worthwhile, like imposed discipline, like following an authority, is an act that is positive, which is itself discipline. Then we will see Motivation and Action by Jutta Hexen and Heinz Akasa, editors. Self-regulation is the alternative to self-control, according to Kuhl and Beckman. Consider self-regulation to be much more convenient and beneficial in the long run. Self-regulation attempts to influence the motivational basis of present behavior in a way that reduces the temptations of behavioral change. To do this, an athlete might, for example, choose the aspects of his or her training that are particularly enjoyable or challenging to him. He or she imagines which goals that are important to him or her, he or she may eventually realize if he or she practices long enough and hard enough. Life is a soap bubble from Osho. From that we will see. What is self-discipline? A neutral sense of witnessing is self-discipline. To be in the world and at the same time not to be in the world is self-discipline. Once Yanhui asked Confucius, "What should I do to have the mental self-discipline?" Confucius said, "You never listen just with your ears. You listen with your mind. In fact, not even with mind. You identify yourself totally with what you hear. Try listening just with your ears. There is no need for the mind to help the ears. In the state of nothingness, your soul will receive the impressions from outside in just passive way. Self-discipline lies in such a state of samadhi or no mind. And godliness too lives only in such a state." Yanhui said, "But in this way, my personality will be lost." Is this what the state of nothingness means? Confucius said, "Yes, that is the meaning. Do you see the window in front of you? Its presence makes it possible for the room to be lit with beauty of the natural scenery. But the scenery is totally outside. If you want to, you can use your eyes and ears in similar way to lighten up your inside. Let the senses be your windows and become empty. This is the state I call self-discipline. I see with my eyes, listen with my ears, walk with my feet, but still I am distant from all. Where I am, there is no seeing, no listening, no walking. Learn to stand apart, neutral and untouched by whatever comes through senses. To be settled like that, in that state of being untouched, is self-discipline, and the self-discipline is the door to truth." So self-discipline is the door to truth. Self-discipline is the door to truth. With this, we will end this episode. Stay with me for another episode. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you.